Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Mike here at Game From Scratch, and rejoice, Unity developers. You get a new release today. It is Unity 2020 2.2. Now, the thing is, Unity have switched to doing two major releases a year. One is the LTS, or the long-term support version, and then the other one is the TechStream version. And today what we are getting is the TechStream update. Generally, TechStream means more fun goodies, more broken stuff, basically to break it down. So this is where you start adding new things that will become more production-ready in the LTS version that's going to ship in another 6 months. So we're getting fun new goodies to play with Unity 2022. Let's go take a look at what the highlights are here. So I might actually do a follow-up video of the top X features here. So if there's certain things that you really like to see in more depth in a follow-up video, let me know and I will do my best to cover them. Now, the biggest thing about this release is that ECS is finally here. Now, ECS stands for Entity Component System. It is a way of structuring your code, breaking your code up from your data, and theoretically, it allows your code to run faster, more parallelizable, and so on. And ECS is finally supported for production, gives you the power to deliver complex gameplay and rich dynamic environments to a large number of players. So this includes the latest entity packages as well as updates to the Burst compiler and C# job system. The job system is that way of making code run in parallel. The Burst compiler is the way of making that code run fast. And ECS-specific packages for netcode, graphics, and physics. You can also use the existing game objects with ECS through baking. Now, game objects is the way that people have used Unity for the last decade plus, so it's nice to see that they kind of circled back and they're not forcing ECS on people. You can now mix and match, which is a good thing. So it's been ages for ECS. It's nice to see that it's finally here. Another thing that Unity has struggled with for ages, and I'm not going to say, okay, it is solved yet, but Unity has a new netcode solution, which is called Netcode for Game Objects. It allows you to delegate the low-level tech to basically it handles the low-level networking stuff for you. There's also netcode for entities, which is part of the ECS we just talked about earlier on. There's also a ton of things on the UGS, or Unity Game Services side, including server hosting, matchmaking, and so on. So multiplayer got a lot of love here, but the big thing here is the netcode for game objects. So if you're looking for a mid-level networking library, which if you're a Unity developer, you probably are, that is their proposed solution for that. We also have some improvements to the graphics side of things. We have the shader graph full screen master node, which is going to enable you to do a ton of really cool full screen graphical tricks. Also, ERP got some enhancements, including level of detail crossfading for smoother transitions between them, forward plus rendering, which enables you to use more lights in a scene, scale high fidelity environments using the new HDRP water system. This is one of those things I may check out in a follow-up video. But again, if there are certain things you want to see more details of, do let me know and I'll do my best to look at those. But a new water system for oceans and underwater effects, which is kind of cool. And create realistic skies with the new cloud layers, dynamic lighting, blend between volumetric cloud conditions, and realistic cinematics through iCinematic with caustics and HDRP path tracing denoising provided by NVIDIA Optics, and Intel Open Image Denoise. So some improvements on the graphics side of things for sure. In terms of productivity, we have simultaneously scatter multiple details with brush improvements in the terrain tools, add intelligence to 3D characters and move them without code using AI navigation package, create splines efficiently with improved tooling and API features. The new spline tools are probably one of the biggest new features that's kind of unheralded here, and it's going to be really useful for plugin developers in general. So anything spline driven, it should be a nicer experience, and since it's API exposed, people creating plugins that use splines should have a better time of it. We also have 2D improvements, including a new light batching debugger, editor support for Sprite Atlas generation. A Sprite Atlas is basically when you put a bunch of sprites together in a single sheet. Generally, that is for organizational and performance reasons. And more coupled with improvements like faster C# script changes and prefab replacement. So some nice productivity changes across the board. Another area that is very nice is for editor extensibility. So this is, again, going to apply for people that create their own tooling or for plugin creators. UI Toolkit is reaching parity with IMGUI. IMGUI is an immediate mode UI, which is literally what IMGUI stands for, to generate default, so it is reaching parity with IMGUI and is the recommended solution for editor tools. So if you are working inside of Unity to create user interfaces, they recommend that you use UI Toolkit. UI Toolkit ultimately will also be good for creating in-game GUIs as well, but that could be a little bit off. It's got a ton of nice tools in there. It's basically a WYSIWYG type environment for creating user interfaces. So UI Toolkit is a very cool thing. So that is the change there. So again, if you wanted me to check out that specifically in a follow-up video, do let me know that in the comments down below. There's also a vector drawing API. So if you're doing vector, basically is like images drawn using math. It's nice. Vector graphics are great because they're infinitely scalable across various different resolutions. If you want something bigger, you just tell it draw bigger. So there is a vector drawing API in there for authoring of splines, graphs, and other visualization. Again, another tool that is going to be great for plugin or add-on creators there. There's also a new tree view control for hierarchical lists. So when it comes to plugin developers, you got a lot to love in this particular release. And then on the platform side of things, Android Fast Deploy speeds up installation of APK and the deployment process. Google's Memory API, Advice API enables more finely tuned memory management. DirectX 12 is now the recommended API for both Windows and Xbox, and it's the foundation for ray tracing, which is now available for Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch. Huh. I have a trouble thinking that Nintendo Switch has the power to support ray tracing. I might just be reading this sentence wrong. Anyways, yeah, so they've moved to DirectX 12 as the default for those two platforms above. And again, am I reading this wrong? Graphics features such as ray tracing, which is now available for Xbox Series X, S, PlayStation 5, and Nintendo Switch. Okay, that is insane. I think I'm reading that wrong. There's no way there's ray tracing on the Switch, but we'll find out. And then on the XR, which is a combination of AR and VR, the XR Interactive Toolkit in version 2.2 provides core XR interactions and supports common cross-device interactions, including grabbing, ray tracers, UI, etc. So if you're working in XR, so if you're creating a VR or an AR app, you should definitely have a better time of things. AR side of things also got bumped up a bit. So if you are working in that space, some improvements there for you as well. So if you're interested, they actually have a nice breakdown of new features and when they were added in. They haven't necessarily updated this completely yet because some things are tagged as beta, which are no longer. So for example, the Forward Plus renderer is now in this particular LTS release. So there's some very nice things that have come in here. We're looking at this point in time, Universal Render Pipeline. So again, LOD crossfade. So LODs, or levels of detail, is when you use different stand-ins. So something's really far away, you use a really low polygon version. When it gets really close, you use a really high detail polygon version. LOD crossfade, it kind of is going to be a smooth blending between them. You can probably think of it like a LERP for moving between those two spaces. It just gives you a nice smooth transition. The built-in converter is very much a nice thing. So if you're working with the standard pipeline and you want to use it in the URP, that is what the converter is all about, and it's got improved. Again, Forward Plus rendering now has more light support, which is definitely nice. And we've got strand-based hair and fur simulations, but notice this tag. When anything is marked as experimental, don't even think about using it in a production environment. And if you're wondering about the stuff that's currently in the beta stage, you can find those down here. And then, of course, we got things that they're considering in the future. So that is the ERP, or the Universal Render Pipeline. We also have the HD Render Pipeline. It got a ton of new functionality somewhat recently, so this stuff is all still tagged as beta, even though in a lot of cases it isn't. So again, we got that new water system in place and the new cloud layers, which again, if you're interested, let me know, and I will check those out. We've also got some other cool things going on. Ray trace support for terrain, which is neat. Again, there's the hair stuff that they used in the enemies video. It is starting to trickle down. I do believe some of this comes from their Weta acquisition, but don't quote me on that one. So definitely some nice improvements on the HDRP side of things. I really want Control Tab to move to the next tab, but it doesn't. All right, so here, shader graph, oddly enough, it's not showing anything new, even though we have that new full screen integration, but that might be under a different category. Under VFX graph, so 2D lit particles is kind of cool, and improved smoke lighting is in there as well. In terms of global illumination, sort of very much a work in progress because they got rid of their existing solution. So GPU progressive light mapper, tile denoising for NVIDIA OptiX 7, and light probe hub searching there. The shader system, progressive shader variant collection warm up, and then finally foundational. We have master texture limit was improved. So again, if you want a breakdown of what they are working on, what they recently completed, and what they are working on going forward, most of the things that are tagged as beta should now be in this official release. Or again, you can just go through the basic release notes available right here, or the uber nerdy, super in-depth 2022 full-on release notes available here with all of the known issues, every single thing that they fixed, all of the stuff in this release. So there's much more than we were covering at the top level of this, but there's quite a bit to like in this particular release. I will, of course, have links to all 3 of these pages, so if you want to learn a little bit more about where Unity has been, where they're going, and what they have done, now you can. But I think the big thing to take away from this one is definitely that ECS is finally live. ECS has been a bit of a gong show, so it's nice to see that they're it's ready for use in production, including all of the various different pieces. Like we got Burst Compiler a couple of years ago, but without having all of these things together, without the job system and the Burst Compiler and the entities packages and the libraries that work with entities packages and all of that stuff, it's been kind of useless. So it's nice that that is finally here. Again, we got the netcode for game objects and netcode for entities out there, so there is a low to mid-level networking solution built in finally. Again, we do have these updates to graphics, including the new clouds and water system. Definitely nice stuff there as well. And I think the other big one here is, again, just the kind of the under the hood improvements, like the new Spline APIs and the new UI toolkit is going to make for just better add-ons. And truthfully, in a lot of ways, the add-on system is the secret sauce for Unity. So anything that makes for better add-ons is ultimately going to make for a better game engine. But let me know, again, what you think of this engine. If there's anything you'd like to see me cover in like a top 5 new features type video. And yeah, let me know what you think of Unity in general and Unity 2022.2 in specific. It's a decent release for sure. I like the LTS, I like the TechStream versions more than the LTS versions because they tend to be a little bit more exciting, but they also tend to be a little bit more problematic. So let me know what you think of this release in general, and I shall talk to you all later. Goodbye.